this session will be an interactive session, and it's all about discussion and sharing ideas and experiences with each other. So please do come off camera if you can. It's always nice to see who you're talking to. And please do participate, join in, ask questions. You can either raise your hand, which will turn your box yellow and let us know that you want to come in to speak and make sure we don't miss you out. Or you can drop your questions or raise any points in the chat box as well. All those functions are in the toolbar on your screen. And you can also use the chat box to drop in your LinkedIn details as well. It'd be great to see everybody connecting after the session. And it's always great to have that network of people to reach out to and ask questions and share ideas with. So please do that as well. So yeah, without further ado, as they say, I'll hand over to Alistair, who's going to take the session forward. Thanks, Alistair.
Thanks, Amanda. Thanks. I was very close to not unmuting myself there, but last minute I got it. Yeah, please. I'd really like to sort of get as much feedback from the audience based on our panel discussion as possible. But also, I think just to sort of kick us off, I appreciate that in some ways maybe we need to take a step backwards, talking about digital skills. And I think it's something that Lynn and Bandhu brought up during the panel discussion, which is that the answer to the question as to what skills are missing or what skills should be prioritized really depends on what we think we're going to be required to do in the future, or what sort of additional demands or expectations we think we're likely to have on us. And so I don't know, Lynn, do you have anything in particular in mind where you think I think that my clients or my colleagues will be expecting X of me that currently maybe I'm not fully equipped to do, whether it's the way your sort of role is set up, maybe it's skills. So is there something that sort of you are actively thinking about?
Yeah, I think you touched on it earlier on. It's the decision support piece. Really, I think we need that conversation with our senior leaders to really get underneath what the answers are that they need to the questions, and kind of build tools and techniques to solve those problems. It's decision support. Ultimately, everyone's trying to generate shareholder value from the industry point of view, and everything drives towards that, certainly in the private sector. So most decisions have an element of sort of financial consequence to them. So a lot of it is around trying to understand forecasts, valuations, and everything that influences those things. So a lot of it is about, I think the key skill sets that I thought 10 years ago were really going to come to the fore. I think we're still stuttering with those a little bit, and so they're still struggling to get through into day-to-day use. So it's that data hygiene, data modeling, visualization reporting, self-service reporting. That stuff is I think overdue now, really. So I think I just saw a webinar a few days ago with a recruiter who was saying that the senior leaders that he's talking to are desperately seeking out people who can transform their systems and processes effectively and generate those information flows that they're looking for. So I think that's the key thing, really, is the data science, the data wrangling, and reporting, but the real-time aspects of that. So you've got real-time self-service access to that information when you need it.
I suspect a big part of that, just from discussions that I've had, is there's a fear associated with the sort of technical side, because as soon as you start talking about systems, as you were, people go, oh my God, I don't know IT infrastructure. I don't know all the sort of new products that are coming out. I couldn't possibly put myself forward for that or sort of suggest that I can work in that space.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's just that sort of willingness to experiment, creativity that I think both you and Bandhu again mentioned on the panel. Sorry, Bandhu, yeah, please come in.
Thank you. Yeah, listen, I won't be able to stay for very long, but I just thought quickly. So totally everything that Lynn said, I'll just add Of course, I can keep adding things, but one thing that I think quite tangible and easily be picked up and quite used quite regularly in digital world that I see, because I'm quite exposed to that world now, is the project management. And different ways, different types of project management. So waterfall, but agile, Scrum, Kanban, and pick up some digital tools that help you deliver something like Miro, Trello, Slack, Zira, you know, uh, really, really important for collaboration in this space. And this is how some of the digital projects are being delivered. And I think it can be learned quite easily, actually. LinkedIn Learning has got, if you don't want to spend too much money, LinkedIn Learning has got some courses available. I don't know if SECA has as well, but please, project management, learning those project management skills, different methodologies will help you collaborate better, because digital teams, they use those frameworks and methods. When I first was like daily sprints, and I was like, what? But actually, it's just
Absolutely.
it's so I think that's quite a tangible skill you can pick up very quickly, and that will help you to work better with them. On that note, I'll have to go, Alistair, but very happy to pick up anything offline separately. I've shared my LinkedIn notes profile here.
Well, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Brenda. It was honestly really enlightening to have you on the panel, and really valuable to our members, I have no doubt. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a really interesting point, because we keep coming back to things that are more typically viewed as soft skills. No matter how much I keep trying to push the more techie side,
Yeah,
we keep coming back to the soft skills.
You could have a whole conversation about, you could have a whole half hour, half a year conversation about change management, couldn't you?
Yeah.
That's an endless one, and so important that it can make the difference between something succeeding and failing every day of the week. But it's the technical awareness, the awareness of what's possible really is so important to start with before you get into the can you do it, what's out there that you don't realize that you could use.
That's right. Yeah, that's why actually I quite liked. It was Microsoft Breakdown, but Joshua brought it up, that split between productive skills and consumptive skills. I think that's quite a nice way to think about it. That most of us just need those consumptive skills, the ability to be an engaged, good consumer of tech products, and that means understanding, if we're talking about generative AI, all the risks and all this unique capabilities, and how we might be able to control them and fit them into our existing frameworks, or adjust our frameworks to better control for the risks. So it does occur to me, though, even within that, a big aspect of what we're talking about is ultimately data literacy, which brings us back to the data science stuff to a large extent. But I think when we're talking about it, we're fitting it into what we're talking about in terms of change management. You brought up the purple person earlier. It's really about data strategy, I guess. Knowing what we want to achieve with data, knowing where we can be most effective, and then so that we have the people with the pure technical capabilities to create the product or solution that we need, but the ability to oversee that in a sort of safe, ethical way, whatever it might be, is what we need.
Absolutely, and really holding your senior leadership to account for the KPIs that they want to use to measure the performance of the organization, and then target your solutions to that. That's so many times that's not really done, that piece at the front, to identify what it is that we actually really need to be tracking. There's there's absolutely that the data piece is huge, but the other piece that I think is equally arguably huge is ways of working. There's something here. So we're here to talk about skills, digital skills gaps for finance, ways of working, things like task management applications. So systems thinking is I guess a concept that I also wanted to introduce into this session. There's a chasm between the proportion of the community that are still just churning their inbox every day and email for everything's coming in and going out via email, versus channel type approach, using different technology platforms for different purposes, and using those channels. So it might be that you're using sort of Teams for internal communications, you're using some kind of task management platform for tracking, because one of the things that I think we are really suffering from as a community and a profession is volume of work. Just because 20 tasks can be thrown at you doesn't necessarily mean you can turn them around immediately. But what you can do in terms of response to that is be more organised and prioritize. But you need tools to enable you to use that. And mailboxes and flags are not going to cut it. So systems thinking. I think those are the two really big categories for me in terms of digital skills. It's the data piece, but also the systems thinking and understanding different channels for different communications and different processes.
I actually love that you brought up systems thinking, because I'm a big advocate of systems thinking.
Until you speak to someone, you can't tell whether they do think about. So many people that I come across don't think about those things the same way I do. So there's lots of conversations to be had there to try and share. Well, if I'm communicate with someone external, I might ask if they've got a collaboration platform that we can sign up to so that we can both upload documents to there and collaborate on those. Rather than just bouncing emails back and forth. There's lots and lots of conversations that are not had at the moment.
Yeah, that's it. It's sort of creating a closed environment where you're both sort of speaking the same language, you're on the same page. And I think it also applies to the fact that we don't like to think about technology as a driver of change. And really, it shouldn't be, really, because technology itself is a product of all these other economic and social and political and various other factors. But there are sort of moments, and I think we're in one of those moments now where sometimes it feels like technology is pressing down on us, like we need to adapt or die.
I noticed a poll question, actually. Sorry, not a chat question earlier on that somebody raised. They were saying that they felt when on the panel we were representing maybe larger organizations, and how do smaller organizations navigate this territory when they've got very few people, very limited capacity, and they probably feel it more. If you're in a finance team of 15 or 30 or 100, at least you've got a lot of people going through that thing with you. But it must feel quite isolating when you're a very small finance team working in a very small organization, and people are demanding the management accounts, and you really don't have time to. So I guess that's where communities like ACCA come in to try and help guide those people and share that information around what's available.
But also listen to some of the sage advice from people like you, and it brings us, I think, nicely to that generative AI bit, where you're making some really good recommendations as to how that can help people just learning on a day-to-day basis, simplifying tasks so that they're just saving a bit of time.
We get really excited about it at Space and Time. Let's look for the tiny thing, look for the 1%. There's so many approaches, aren't there, to change and continuous improvement, and one of them is just find something really tiny and just tweak that. And that'll generate a little bit of capacity, and then find the next one. And I definitely try and create an environment in the team where we really celebrate anyone trying anything, anyone coming up with an idea, no matter whether it actually is feasible or not. Any kind of idea generation is good and gets a big pat on the back.
I think that's quite unique, and that there probably aren't enough organizations where that is the sort of culture where people have the space to play around like that. And that's really where you then find this sort of big changes, the big transformative changes. You're messing around with something you don't think is very important, and it occurs to you, oh my God, I could do this other thing this way.
Absolutely. We've got some really good stuff that way. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think on the generative AI bit, it occurs to me there's lots of really simple ways to use it, with sort of acknowledging the risk of things like hallucinations, which is a feature, not a bug of the system. We're going to have to live with it. We're going to have to learn how to deal with that if we're going to use it. If you're willing to learn a little bit of coding, there are loads of ways in which you can use it for forecasting, for scenario planning, various other things. And then on top of that, using ChatGPT to help you learn that code, so that the bar is lowering considerably to using advanced analytics and predictive analytics within any organization. That's the exciting thing to me about generative AI, and a lot of that is fairly safe use, as long as you are using it in a knowledgeable way and sort of checking all the outputs.
Absolutely, and just give it a try. I mean, it might be nice to bring in some of the other participants. Ask if anyone's got any experience of using it in financial planning or forecasting or anything like that.
Great question.
There.
Is there anyone else in the audience who has played around with ChatGPT or any other kind of generative AI in their work? feel free to
If
drop
everyone
something
stays
in the
quiet,
chat, or
I
everyone's
won't be
afraid.
entirely, I won't be entirely surprised. As I ran this poll series on LinkedIn over the past couple of weeks, and there's a lot of people out there who just don't feel that they have time to engage with it. They're just, well, this is what I've got to do. This is the way I've always done it. I don't have any spare capacity. It was a really interesting one I asked actually around what is the biggest barrier? So these things may all be barriers, but what is the most significant barrier to your finance team in terms of digital upskilling? Is the most significant one time, lack of time, or lack of funding, or lack of inclination, or none? There's no barriers. Every single respondent put lack of time. And my challenge back to the community would be, hang on, guys, we've all got 37.5 hours a week. It's actually a prioritization question then. It's not, you can do, there is the time available in theory. It's just what you do with it and whether you feel empowered and supported by your leadership in terms of devoting that time, or some of that time, to exploring the unknown. And that's why actually the other question we did earlier on was really interesting around responsibilities as well, because as soon as you ask the community whether they feel it's the senior leader's responsibility or everyone's responsibility, you know that the right answer is it's everyone's responsibility. It's on me, it's on you, it's on you, my juniors, it's on my seniors. That is the right answer, but you do also need that other, it's almost like they both need to be in place, right? That self-starting Bandu sort of self-learning approach needs to be in place, but also you do need the support and encouragement of your senior leaders to enable that to go anywhere. So they are really, really important too. So I think anyone who feels like they don't have time to explore new ways of working, new sort of techniques, new skills, I'd go and have a chat with your line manager and say, I think we're missing something here. I feel like I don't have time to give to that area. And you can only sustain in that state for so long. You're going to get out of date eventually. So do we want that? Is that what we're consciously deciding to do? Or do we want to create a little bit of space and allow that there is an opportunity to cost to that? Something else is not going to get done quite as fast, but in the long run, it's probably the right thing to do. That's
exactly.
the judgment call. Sorry,
I see Eric has agreed with you in the comments about the point about empowerment is really key. But on top of that, I think it's the fact that sometimes there's a misunderstanding between the sort of different the people in the senior level versus the people working underneath them, where people think they have to do something a certain way because that's the way it's done, and they feel like the senior leadership would frown upon them innovating because this is what they're used to. Whereas in reality, senior leadership would be happy to be brought a different solution. But that somehow that conversation needs to be had. You need to open up that channel to say, look, there might be something else we can do. Can we create some time, some space to trial this other thing out? And there's no perfect way to do that, is there? It depends on the organization.
It does, absolutely, and it depends what those tasks are, what you're doing. But absolutely, so many times I've seen someone say, well, this is how I was taught to do it 7 years ago.
I'm
doing it the way I was told.
Absolutely. And it becomes a comfort blanket. You think,
Does anyone in the room have any experience of those situations where you're kind of doing something the way that you've always done it, and actually you're curious, you think there might be a better way? Maybe you could have that conversation with your leadership. Erica saying, I've always approached a new task in the viewpoint of why is it done this way? Does it work? Is it best practice? And how could I change it? I never accept status quo. Big up, Erica. That's what we want. That's what we want. That's how we drive.
Erica's one of those purple people, I suspect.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Yeah. Systems thinking, right?
Anyone else? Anyone else had feel like they have a blocker or a barrier where they find a particular struggle in doing something like this? I don't want to waste my own time, Erica. Exactly.
Capacity to do more. Erica, we need to meet.
Look, Fiona, I don't know if you could let us know what the Grace Hopper quote is, because I'm not familiar with it. I don't know if anybody else is. I hope I'm not alone in this.
That's something I'm going to pick up on in a minute as well. Am I alone in this? Hopefully Fiona's typing. Whilst Fiona's typing the Grace Hopper quote, Just touching on that, I'm alone in this. That was something that I hope to have an opportunity to raise. I think you touched on earlier on expanding the community of people who have and not relying on the change agents and the people who brand themselves as change agents and purple people. Oh, is that the Grace Hopper quote?
That, yes.
Like
I think we should all have that up in our office. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But I often feel it. I've worked in a variety of organisations, private sector, public sector, large, small, and I often feel quite isolated in the way that way that Erica was talking about there. That I think about things of, well, what's the most elegant way to do this? I can see what we're trying to achieve here. Are we achieving it in an elegant and efficient or automated way? And I often feel quite isolated. So there's something here around this networking across this community, some of the people that have joined these sessions, and support each other and act as sounding boards for each other and encourage each other, because you might feel right now where we're at is that you're quite isolated, and what we're hoping to get to and what ACC are hoping to get to by running these sessions is to evangelize for this stuff and try to bring more people on the journey and get more people engaged and more empowered with all of this stuff that we can potentially do as a profession.
Yeah, I think that's really important that we sort of all do travel together as much as possible, because there's value in being able to sort of share experiences. And there is a fear, especially right now, where you've got this plethora of new tools and things that are popping up, that everyone does things in a slightly different way. And then it becomes very difficult to communicate and to, just to compare the performance even.
And there's also a little bit of the commercial sensitivity sort of fear as well. I think nobody wants to necessarily admit to not being as far progressed down the road in terms of technology adoption as they may want to be. So there's a little bit of being brave and putting out there and going, well, actually, and if anyone on the call wants to go and get a sense, sort of benchmark where they are a little bit, go and have a look at the results of the polls that I posted on LinkedIn over the past couple of weeks, and you might find yourself not as far adrift from the general population.
Wait, remind me what the result was around Power Query, because it took me by I honestly fell off my chair.
The result on Power Query: does your team routinely use Power Query in Excel? The options were yes, we're all over it, tried it but struggled with it, heard of it but not tried it, and Power what? Yes, we're all over it. No, nobody voted for that. Tried it but struggled with it, 10%. Heard of it but not tried it, 35%. Power what? 55% of people. There you go. If you get on Power Query, absolutely. There's a couple of really good suggestions that Bandy mentioned in the session earlier around technologies to pick up on Power Automate. I'm not affiliated with Microsoft either, but I 100% that Power Automate is amazing. There are alternatives like Zapier or if this and that. But yeah, Power Query, if you haven't got on that and you are an Excel user, please go and have a look at what Power Query can do for you. It's amazing.
Yeah, I second that. I second that. I suspect there's also a generational element here though as well, because I remember talking to a student not long ago, and he's sort of very good on the analytics side already, accomplished in R. And I remember him saying, why would I use Power BI and Power Query? R is free, you get access to it. You know, it can do everything that Power BI and Power Query can do. And so there is an element to which, you know, one generation may just be jumping over those tools. And you know, they're learning things in a certain way. Yeah,
for sure. Absolutely. Well, whatever way you solve it is good, right? I think that my generation of finance professionals haven't been exposed necessarily to those things. Power BI is a solution for those people. Looker, Click, Tableau, all of those products, whichever one you can get access to, and some of it there'll be organizational restrictions. So you might work in a large organization that's got SAP Business Warehouse, and that's your BI tool that's available. Let's go use that. For sure. It's technology agnostic, but you're looking for the capability.
Absolutely. Yeah, spot on. See, we have a couple of sorry, I think this. Yeah, that risk aversion and the cost, I think, is a very real factor. And I can't remember who mentioned it on the panel, but probably all mentioned it at one stage.
I think Bandy was talking about the senior leaders being challenging and questioning the ideas. Rightly so.
Yeah. And That's a difficult one, especially when you're talking about wholesale systems change or ERP systems. I mean, that cost is tremendous. The upheaval is tremendous. It takes a long time. And so that's understandable. I think one of the good things, as we referred to, some forms of like machine learning, so some use cases for generative AI, even at least they can be sort of applied on top of legacy systems. So at least the bar is lowered there. You don't need to sort of wholesale change things as long as you have good, clean data to use in the first place, and that's the real challenge. So
absolutely. I mean, I've worked in organizations where you have to have a workaround of essentially extracting large volumes of data from that legacy system, getting it into a database or somewhere that it can be consumed, and then again, the sky's the limit on that. There will be limitations, but I suppose at the end of the day, our role as finance professionals is to go in there and do what we can, optimize it as best we can, and support our decision makers as best we can with the tools that are available to us, and know what else is out there that we could potentially introduce. And then it is for senior leaders to make decisions as regards to what they want to adopt. But number one is having the information, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're right. A very, very common problem though.
But I'm feeling a strong connection to Erica here with her oh god workarounds, bane of my life. Yes, yeah. I think again we can all empathize with that feeling, and unfortunately it is too common. But there's a real risk in that again you end up multiplying the problem of data silos and potentially sort of privacy issues with storing data on the local drives and everything like that. So we shouldn't be taking lightly the idea that you need to sort of maybe extract data from legacy systems in order to take advantage of these new technologies. There's a lot of very serious governance that needs to be applied, even when you're thinking about using workarounds.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Especially when you're thinking about using workarounds, I should say.
Agreed.
Let's read this comment. I think we have. Oh, I think we have 1 minute left. Let's just see.
Erica says she just Googled, and was it Grace, the lady? Grace Hopper also allegedly says it's often easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. I'm not sure whether I would advocate.
There's a font of wisdom, Grace Hopper.
Let's communicate. Let's have open communication channels and collaboration with senior leadership at all times.
Well, that's great. I don't know if anybody else in the audience has any final questions or comments before we call this to an end, but I'd just like to thank Lynn. I think it was really brilliant. I really enjoyed our discussion. I've enjoyed your polls on LinkedIn. So if there's anyone who's not following Lynn on LinkedIn, get engaged. She's got some great polls, great insights.
They are time limited, but if there's a demand for more, I have lots more questions I would love to ask the finance community. So let me know.
Well, I'm just going to get you to run our research from now on.
Happy to help. I'll automate that for you. It'll be fine.
I mean, even better. Yeah. Really.
Before Alistair makes himself redundant.
Oh no, I'm going to be the first casualty.
Lynn, if you get a chance, if you could pop your LinkedIn details into the chat as well, just so people know where they could follow you, that'd be brilliant.
Right up to the top, scroll right up to the second post. It's just underneath Bandu's there. Yeah, happy to connect.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that. I was searching for other links at the time, but yeah, there's lots of links to go back to and have a look in there. Lots of resources. I think I've popped in the chat as well that ACCA support the Digital Finance Function Awards, so they have just passed, but the registrations are open for next year as well. Put links into our innovation in finance courses and certificates and things as well. So lots of resources there in the chat to support you further. So please do look out for them. And as I said, do connect with each other. We've seen today there's been lots of ideas sharing. So it's great to keep that sense of community. So thanks for everybody for their time and their input today. Thanks to Alistair for hosting and Lynn for taking part, and everybody else for popping in their questions and observations as well. So enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Thank you.